Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. Previously an ordinary teenager named Mingfei has his heart destroyed when his crush is taken by another boy. A girl named Nono then convinces him to join an elite school where they are attacked by a group involved with the dragons. The story continues as Mingfei and Nono arrive at a body of water at the top of a mountain. The water is cold, but Mingfei is eager to prove how tough he is, and the two share a laugh. She reveals that Mance and his team have all died, but the school is keeping it a secret from everyone. Nono explains that many of the students that end up graduating will choose to forget about the dragons, but those that stay will have a good reason. She explains her reason is simply that she wants to stay away from home, but the two decide to change the conversation. Just then, Norma announces to everyone at the school that Night Watch is breaking the commandment. He recites an incantation and wakes the power of ancient times. Students Yanling around the school are unlocked, but the same is true for the Intruders. Their captain explains that they are being hidden by one of their group's Yanling, just as Professor Main uses his Yanling in an attempt to find them. Elsewhere, a lone intruder called 13 finds an entrance that is tightly guarded and receives instructions to investigate the wine cellar. He makes his way inside and is surprised to see that no one drinks since the place is so dusty. His employer instructs him to use the black card she gave him to get past any locked entrances and gives him further directions. Nearby, Caesar uses his Yanling and contacts Zihang to explain that his guest has just arrived in front of him. Zihang's guest hasn't arrived yet though, and the two have a competition to see who will finish their battle first. Zihang explains to his assistant that everything will begin shortly, but she expresses concern for his body's health. Norma instructs everyone to evacuate the library, and Zihang demands that his assistant execute the order. He will be staying behind though, and his assistant is worried that if he uses his Yanling that it might lead to injury. Zihang still orders her to leave, and she asks that he do his best to control it. He understands and promises to take everyone out to dinner once everything is over with. Back at the church, one of the intruders questions if they are actually being hidden. Their captain is certain, but the intruder points out how Caesar seems to almost be laughing at them. He has some music played and reveals the intruders to everyone. Leaders of both groups stop everyone from shooting each other, and the intruder's captain takes a call from an annoying telemarketer. The two leaders share their hate for unwanted phone calls, and the intruder reveals that she is Aiji's sister. Caesar is sorry for her loss, but the woman explains that they weren't very close anyway. She wants the fight to be like a western and states that they will fight when the music on her phone ends. She explains that they are there for the container of the King of Bronze and Fire. Caesar explains that it could bring disaster, but she thinks it will just bring different times. He begins a 15-second countdown to the end of the song in his head, but the lights go off and the music stops playing well ahead of time. Shots are fired from everywhere, but the two leaders remain standing, and Caesar explains that harmless frigga bullets were used by both sides. It's clear that Caesar turned off the lights to gain an advantage, but the woman reveals that her job is only to keep him busy. The real work will be left to someone she calls the other girl. She explains that this girl has no body and no face. Caesar then reveals that he knows she changed the music at the last moment, otherwise she would have lost already. The woman admits to it and gives him the advantage of being in the dark as a 5-second countdown to the next fight begins. Caesar is confident as the fight begins, but realizes that his opponent is quite dangerous just as his phone call with Zihang is dropped. The other girl arrives at the library and explains that she will be Zihang's opponent. Her employer told her to be careful fighting Zihang since he was the beast that they raised. Elsewhere, Guderian wants to know about Zihang's Yanling, but that information is classified and he assumes it must be very dangerous. Zihang is then urged to end the battle quickly, and he activates his Yanling. Guderian recognizes the ability instantly and points out how it has a serial number of 89. It's a rare, dangerous, and extremely violent ability. Fire elements in the surrounding environment ignite, causing explosions everywhere. The intensity of the explosions is comparable to detonating a napalm. However, everyone is shocked to see that Zihang's opponent is formidable as she uses Yanling with similar strength. Elsewhere, 13 continues his mission and is encountered by Norma. She is aware that he is the enemy, but he carries a card with him that forces her to give him clearance. Norma warns that he should leave before it's too late, but he just forces her to give him directions. 13 heads there immediately, and his employer congratulates him on reaching the highest level of secrecy in the academy. She explains that the commission for the mission has gone up to 5 million now. However, before she can give him final instructions, he drops the phone and decides to proceed without the information. 13 makes it to a door but begins to have a strange feeling and a vision of someone calling him brother, causing him to open the door. At the top of the mountain, Nono explains that Caesar doesn't see Mingfei as a threat even though he is an S-class student. Nono tells him to join the student council, and Mingfei realizes that Caesar has sent her to seduce him. He tells himself to resist, but deep down still wants her to seduce him. Nono reveals that she is inviting him for herself so they can be closer friends. She explains that she is engaged to Caesar, but that is because of politics. Nono states that she was going to come to his rescue when he needed a dance partner earlier, but was stopped by Caesar. Mingfei explains that she isn't the only one being nice, and he is capable of saving her as well. Nono then says that he should prove himself by giving her a present since she hasn't received one yet. Mingfei is certain she will have plenty of gifts waiting for her if she returns to her dorm, but Nono wants a certain gift in particular. She would really like some flowers from a certain person, and Mingfei activates the Show Me the Flowers ability that Mingzi unlocked earlier. Music begins to play from the car and fireworks light the night sky. Nono bursts into tears as she wishes herself a happy birthday and reveals that the certain person she spoke of was her mother. Mingfei is able to relate since he hasn't spoken with his mother either. He tells Nono that the two of them will be close friends and wishes her a happy birthday. Elsewhere, one of the intruders attempts to make his way through a building, but comes upon some difficulties. He manages to scare away a shark and reveals that he has finally made it to the Alheim Institute where the copper jar is being stored. The intruder uses a card that allows him to open most gates, and he makes his way further into the institute. Nearby, we watch as the copper jar is stored and a superconducting freezing magnetic field is turned on. President Ange explains that it is a historic day since this is the first Dragon King body sample that they will be able to research. He explains that they are still unsure if a living body resides inside the jar, and the intruder listens nearby. Ange states that it is safe though, since whatever is inside hasn't woken up yet, and the ultra-low temperature environment cuts off the power of the King of Fire and Bronze. Furthermore, the shell of the jar is extremely strong, and the Dragon King himself would have a hard time breaking through. There is a crack left by Mance though, and Ange explains he used the only liquid that can corrode the regenerative metal shell. An MRI scan shockingly reveals that there are actually two compartments inside the shell. It becomes clear now that this crack wasn't made by Mance, and had just been made when whatever was inside escaped. The researchers determine that the egg must be opened immediately, but Ange explains they don't have the tools to cut through this type of metal. The man is persistent, but Ange is upset at them for waking whatever was in there and putting his school in danger. He demands that everyone leave while they drop the temperature further, and we see that 13 stays behind. He approaches the egg but continues to have visions of someone calling him brother. He reminds himself how important the money he will receive is and begins to take pictures of the egg. The visions persist though, and he decides to quit, leaving behind a container that he was supposed to use. A message with instructions for 13 plays over his lost phone and instructs him to go into the room with the egg. 13 was supposed to pour the solution in the left behind container onto the egg, take out what's inside, and bring it to her. The reward is up to 10 million, and a mysterious man arrives to pour the solution instead. He gives his blood to the one he calls Great Lord as well, and states that it is the supreme and most powerful being. The man leaves and welcomes the Great Lord back to the world. Back at the church, Caesar's fight with the Intruders captain continues, and he demonstrates exceptional skills with both his guns and sword. The girl moves at incredible speed, and Caesar realizes she is using ninjutsu. The two exchange comments about being more merciful against attractive opponents, and Caesar challenges her to end the fight in 3 attacks. Her first attack is blocked, and her second is completely dodged. Caesar then senses that she has given up the advantage of her high-speed movement, and her final move will come from every angle in every direction. He visualizes the danger surrounding him and prepares his Yanling for the coming attack. The swords converge on him, but he is able to break the attack. He managed to find the real threat, and he explains that her ninjutsu wasn't enough to conceal her heartbeat completely from him. She breaks their deal to use only swords by pulling a gun on him, but a huge explosion breaks up the fight. Their investigation reveals a set of footprints that have burned the ground. It's clear that whatever the person is, they easily melted through everything, and its temperature is seemingly about the same as the surface of the sun. Caesar explains that he sensed something coming, but reveals that whatever it is didn't have a heartbeat. The girl demands that Caesar get away from her immediately, as she needs to make an urgent call. On the mountain, Caesar informs Nono of the attack, but she is confident it will all be over before the return to the school, since Caesar and Zihang are both there. At the academy, the fight between Zihang and the mysterious girl rages on. Their attacks light up the sky as the pair prove to be evenly matched in terms of their abilities. The instructors watch, and one of them points out that the girl is holding back her power. For some reason, her true purpose is to stall Zihang, and Guderian begins to wonder what they could possibly be doing. They notice that 13 is attempting to make his escape and send more forces to stop him at the gate. 13 evades them easily and thanks them for their hospitality, but is then struck by the car driven by Mingfei. The two have a tense encounter but quickly realize that they are actually very close online gamer friends. This is their first time actually meeting. 13's name is actually Tang, and he realizes that this is the school Mingfei had talked about. He explains that he just finished doing some work but is being chased. Seconds later, Mingfei attempts to explain to Nono that they are now supposed to pretend to be hostages for his friend Tang. In an attempt to be more convincing, Mingfei cries for help, and Tang threatens to kill him if the troops get any closer. Just then, the commotion is stopped by an immense heat felt by everyone. The trio can't even turn around, so they use the rearview mirror to see a boy in flames on the back of their car, as he calls out for his brother. The instructors watch everything unfold, and because of the heat energy emanating from the boy, they determine he must be a dragon. The boy is seemingly unstoppable, as an order is made to stay away from him. Long-range attacks are powerless as well, since the bullets are melting before even reaching the boy. Grenades are used as well, but those don't accomplish anything at all. The instructors are then shocked as the boy begins the same incantation as Zihang when he activated his immensely powerful Yanling. They warn everyone to get away, but it's too late, and the boy demonstrates just how dangerous he really is. Nearby, Zihang's fight is paused when the fighters notice an explosion, and Zihang is informed of the live fire dragon attack. The informant can hardly explain the damage caused by the boy's ability, and Zihang warns everyone to stay away as the boy's control over the flames is far superior than his own. Zihang explains that they have released something very dangerous, but the mysterious girl says that it wasn't their doing. Elsewhere, Main explains to his father what is going on, and Nightwatch determines that the boy must be a first-generation dragon species. He is one of the 4 great monarchs, the king of bronze and fire. The captain of the Intruders calls her employer and explains how the boy is like a steel-making furnace that is about to explode. The employer still doesn't believe that the dragon could have escaped even after Caesar confirms what is happening, so she is sent a video. The employer explains that the boy is not Norton and is instead named Constantine. She reveals he must have been awakened by the wrong person in the wrong way and is now unstable and out of control. His body will soon be unable to support his own immense power and will collapse at any time. The previous collapse of Norton resulted in a firestorm, and its power would have been enough to destroy their entire mountain. The employer begins looking for a solution, and we see that Mingfei and his friends are hiding nearby. Tang explains that he is a hunter, and Nono is aware that he is the type of hunter that searches for things that are hard for ordinary people to touch. Nono then explains that she believes the boy is looking for one of them, but strangely, he doesn't seem to have the advanced senses dragons typically have. Just then, Finger arrives to explain his terrifying encounter with the dragon, and Mingfei wishes Caesar or Zihang would have shown up instead. Just then, the group notice that the dragon is approaching them, and they decide to head to the school's pool. They find Caesar, who Nono decides to stay with, and continue on to the pool. Caesar wants her to follow them though, as her being around during his encounter with the dragon will only distract him and affect his performance. He explains that she must protect Mingfei, but still isn't certain if he is what the dragon is after. Just then, the employer calls and explains that the boy is the younger brother of the king of bronze and fire. He has absolute power over fire and metals, so metal bullets can't hurt him. Freestyle bullets can anesthetize the Dragon King, but the immense heat will vaporize the components. The kinetic energy of Frigg bullets, though, should be able to repel him. Caesar and the captain both use Frigg bullets and show just how effective they are against the dragon. The other shooters do as well, and the plan is to not allow the boy to use another Yanling. At the pool, the boys have some fun, but Mingfei reminds them that they are there to take refuge. He introduces his 2 friends to each other, and Tang has visions that make him believe the dragon is on his way to them. Mingfei is skeptical, but quickly believes him when he has a vision of his own. In an attempt to hide themselves from being sensed by the dragon's heat, they submerge themselves in the water. Mingfei resurfaces to find his friends are gone, and he is no longer in the pool. He assumes it must just be another one of Mingzi's illusions and begins to search for him. Mingfei is completely shocked when the first person he encounters is actually the dragon, and the boy once again calls out for his brother. Thanks for watching part 4, future parts will be in a link comment below.